Oh, hey everybody, and welcome back to Roll on Trucking. And before I'm gonna be talking about for this way about locking games, about these driving games on Roblox, we're gonna be driving as a Cabover truck as well. This must be the K100 that I absolutely started to driven for, so I'm actually gonna be driving a Cabover truck for the first time inside of this game. But I wasn't able to use for a long nose truck for a while because it must be for somewhere that I eventually using a T600 that I could believe to drive something all the way that I probably trying to find out. So without further ado, we're gonna be talking about something about for some of these games are being locked by some sort of administration problems. So not the administration problems because FPS problem FPS could be a exact problem to all of the games. So well, I'm going to roll and let's just talk about here for something as quickly. So I'll be first start with driving games. So somewhat as well that I'm totally able to say that driving games are an absolute FPS games that are going to be locked that features for some sort of a few firearms as well. First up is Driving Empire. It was definitely some sort of an FPS game that I really never should absolutely gonna be playing around here for this one. So another one for some sort of multiple games around here, like non-FPS games like Vehicle Legends, and even many more of the stuff around here. Even Dealership Tycoon, and even more of these racing games as well. Except Southwest Florida and not other kinds of stuff around here. Florida games are an also absolute FPS games. I absolutely talking about here for this one. So we just absolutely continue to talk here that I already started around here since then. And well, I wasn't actually gonna be presumed with that. And I wasn't absolutely expected around here since I have last time played, since I have eventually left the game for my own good. The game was completely locked without age verification. I am not an FPS player, but unfortunately my account could actually going to be deleted in the future around as well since June. But of course, this is absolutely felt me sad around here, especially for one of the roadkill games. So, next up isn't going to be for around here. We're still talking about driving games like Greenville, Renaki, Virginia, or some sort of like any more as well. Even more of those games that I probably should have able to find out is I'm not actually gonna find anywhere of other kinds of games. So, well, I'm just doing a U-turn if we're gonna be continue to talk. So, I'm probably pretty sure driving games are probably good around here, but unfortunately, ultimate driving that I'm not sure. And will probably think that ultimate driving is an FPS game. This how unfortunately shouldn't actually going to be look like anything around as well because of restrictions like going to get arrested and anything around here for this one. You may not come into this game about ultimate driving since the death of the ultimate driving has come around here for just like that. Unfortunately, everybody does no longer remember of this game. And that includes Drive X or Rev X or some sort of like anything as well that for one of these forgotten racing games have just gone extinct, or something like becoming an FPS games for some sort of an absolute reasons. Especially there is absolutely any more about of one of the games that I just totally remember or I absolutely played around here for this one. I really think that Driving Empire includes this one because due to the FPS reasons that I may not going back to Driving Empire once for all. And that's how bad it wasn't going to be. And I still won't able to make some money around here. I cannot move into another device or log into another device for something else. So of course it was not okay for everybody as well, since it was totally locked from everyone as well as we know it. So if I never totally gonna be saying about this way, it won't going to be actually like here to do so. But until that anybody who got actually banned for unverified reasons, even they were FPS players. Because that means it was absolutely for an FPS means, frames per second, or first person shooter. As I totally never gonna be untold around here for this one. So I may not going for the onboard view until it wasn't going to be look like this anyway. So we still actually talking around here for some sort of like here. As we say, FPS games are absolutely for some sort of frames per second, which is absolutely important around here for use, but unfortunately it was a fraud. Because what the FPS means, frames per second, unfortunately that does not exist around here. FPS Unlocker was absolutely banned of all of the games and even mods. Modding games in Roblox are also banned around here for this one, according to the age restriction or age verification update around here that eventually changed the world. So even though it wasn't going to be even like that anyway, because how unfortunate you're going to be for these games are probably going to be about to take down and disappearance or some sort of like that. So let's not able to be sure that many other kinds of games are going to be deleted around here because nothing important around here. So only the FPS games are going to be removed soon that anybody does not verify their age when they are developers. And I cannot believe this isn't going to be like anybody as well, that they have already changed everything on this point. And the bad news is that includes amount of racing games, role-play games, trucking games, train driving games, and row scale games. So next up is actually row scale games. However, some of these row scale games are a total FPS games that we never totally seen that before. And it was kind of unlawful around here for this one. So nothing of course around here isn't going to be for just like that anyway. But I'm never absolutely pretty sure if we're gonna be trying to find our way for just like it's not going to be. So wait, am I turning in the indicators on? I'm not pretty sure if I'm just going to say around here. So, anyways, back to talking around here for this one. So, as you can see around here, for one of the row scale videos are probably a little bit good, but slightly underrated. And one of these games, like row scale games, are probably a few of those FPS features. FPS features are totally for unknown reasons, because of unknown reasons like this, that stands for first person shooter. This is not totally good about anything about it was, because using an FPS unlocker in the studio could actually result in a ban among them as well, when this user was completely verified or something. So I will not absolutely think that isn't going to be like anybody as well. So one of the row scale games are absolutely completely find out for something as well. Some row scale games are locked because of FPS reasons, of like anything totally for the FPS of those reasons. They have using the FPS around here, which is not frames per second, and because of all of that means, that isn't going to be look like that anyway. So, without further that reason that we never seen that before, is one of the reasons that FPS games are not absolutely for everybody as well, which is only for the teens about age of 16 users and up, because since that social media ban was been a year ago since actually then, this changed the history for good in anything around here. FPS means it was restricted to all viewers and not viewable to anyone on all Roblox games. Or a few of Roblox games it was that we never surmised. This is nothing that we wait to do around here for this one. Even includes around here for some sort of driving games and much more of about that situation. Even though that many of the games around here just like that wasn't gonna be supposed to be. So, even though that row scale Rails of Unionville is an FPS game, which is bad around here, so he eventually fixed this instantly, as we never think around here. And I have might slightly get across the railroad tracks instantly, while the trailer may not actually going to get stuck around here eventually. So anyways, still back in around here for one of the row scale games, and I never seen, for the first thing that I have never encountered, that the Detour row scale, and even more for some sort of another row scale games like that one, and even real rail simulation games that feature FPS, which is exactly also a fraud for around here for this one, I never presumed. So we're not absolutely going to be saying around here from whatever that I never actually got a use for. I'm probably pretty sure that isn't going to be anywhere around here to do so. I felt a little bit sad if I just tried to play row scale games like that. Unfortunately, they might lock me out of the site or out of the platform, and they were also locked in the platform just like that anyways. Even this is absolute a problem for one of those players or publishers of the game. I cannot believe that Roblox is so pointless now, since I have just recorded it back in a while ago. And I cannot believe for one of the games that this felt to be sad if the games are completely locked for other kinds like this one. So, according to the news, Roblox has locked amount of FPS games and age-rated mature games out of existence around here because they have need for a mass verification around here for this one, because this is absolutely not dangerous as well. Do you think that age verifications was totally bad and dangerous? That means no. This is why it's absolutely making even safe for everybody as well, and causing a mass deletion for everybody isn't going to be for around here for like them as well. I actually went here to some sort of any parking space around here or what. And most likely other kinds of road scale games have been officially locked with anything it goes for something else. I may not exactly U-turn, but I'm not going to be doing this again in the previous video that I just actually heard of. So, quite again, for other multiple road scale games are exactly, for some road scale games have an FPS feature. I've totally saying this already. And even more of one of the road scale games like Importance was actually FPS games also, which is not exactly good for everybody as well, even for unverified age users, for something else that you could check it out for some sort of like anything as well. So according to the news that one of the games have a little bit of problem amongst all of them, of anybody itself, that they have tried to play for one of the games that they could have trusted. So even though that wasn't going to be all of them, that these matters that happened. In fact, that still, I wasn't actually going to be talking around here for a long while, so I wasn't actually going to be saying about that early. So, I have already talked around here for the road scale games. Now let's also talk about trucking games around here, which some of the other games like controversy games like this one, driving games are also controversy like anything around here for this one, because due to exactly that it's unfortunate ways around here for unknown reasons around here for somewhere else. So even though there isn't more to come around here for this one, so even driving games like Greenville and many more other kinds of driving games still have no FPS feature, which is totally a little bit good around here. I mean, it's a little bit good to say you can play one of these games like Greenville and anything, whatever it goes, except Ultimate Driving. But trucking games like Roll-On Trucking that I have currently played is absolutely a little bit good, and there is no FPS feature, except one of the Mexican truckings, and even more controversy truckings like terrible loud sound of the horns around here for this spamming horns like these guys, which is exactly how terrible what it's not going to be. So I just tried to turn off the indicators, and well, that isn't gonna be for quite a bit for somewhere. Of course, it won't actually gonna be trying to sing around here for like the Mexican trucks or European trucks. So European trucking does not have any FPS feature, except something who has it around here on Asian trucking simulators around here for this one, and South American truckings around here that might also have FPS features around here. So sorry developers, please remove that anyway. And that fact is, this might not going to be worth it as well from any features that they have using FPS around here for this one. So please make these games safer against the modders that we never seen this as well. And well, that leads that we're moving on to the racing games. Let's talk about for other kinds of racing games who had FPS features around here as well. Well, racing games like the Midnight Racing Tokyo has an FPS feature, but not exactly for some sort of like anything about these, because these things have just completely for a few mods around here for these things as well. Slot or some sort of mods around here for this one, or even for some anything around here, because unlike this, modding this game was actually a little bit bad, but however, it wasn't going to be for everybody as well. Even Midnight Racing Tokyo has been locked a while ago, since a developer is trying to remove it, because I'm not sure his client wasn't actually going to be like anybody else, because it is actually for adults only around here for this one, that I'm not actually saying of anybody as well that we never totally sing of this game. So any players may not actually gonna be playing Midnight Racing Tokyo or even Midnight Racing Los Angeles. So, however, for other kinds of racing games like Driving Empire is absolutely still some kind of an FPS game, which is totally not for everybody anymore around here for to do this as well, because these games are being locked. Even trucking games, road skill games, and other kinds of stuff like that already, that I already said around here in the beginning of this video. So, although around here for other kinds of racing games like Project Track Day is an FPS game also, if I'm not actually gonna say that as well. So please remove that feature, and absolutely you have already did. So even though that when it comes around here from not anybody as well, because due to the FPS feature around here that we never said, I have just encountered another opponent, if I'm not actually trying to say that way. So I'm going for this way on this road. There's no big update around here if I'm just actually going to say that way. So what I'm not actually told, what I just not going to say about anything around here, that isn't going to be exactly why. For one of these simulation games are FPS games. I'm a little bit sad now, but unfortunately that wasn't going to be for everybody as well. But even for at late teenagers only, and not everybody else. So, more of these racing games, like these ones, and Car Crushers 2, is also an FPS game for some sort of like anything as well. I probably should include like this one, and I'm probably sure that one of their projects that they have made was absolute FPS games like that. I'm not already saying this already because of one of the games like the Car Crushers 2 and original Car Crushers 1 are exactly FPS games as well. Unfortunately, you may not able to play for Car Crushers 1 because it was definitely an FPS game as well. I never totally saying this as well, that we never gonna be believe. Also, we're gonna be also talking about like this thing as well. So up next is flight simulation games. There were also FPS games, but some of them haven't. Which is absolutely isn't gonna be for everybody as well if you're gonna be playing vehicle driving games as well, even probably a little bit more around here. So plane flying or flight simulation games like Crazy Plane and many more other kinds of games are probably FPS games, which is probably not good for everybody also. And even though there is still more to come around here from like other kinds of flight simulator games as well, that I just doing it for a little bit. Since I started to fly of one of the planes that I'm going to be flying off, or anybody as well at Seattle Airport, and even flight games like other kinds of that haven't actually has an FPS games like these. However, that wasn't going to be like that as well anyway, because some of the flight games are not FPS games, which is probably going to be recommended for everyone, and probably even though for other kinds of users or whatsoever for something like else for that one. Even though not other guys around here for just like one of them, but I couldn't believe that isn't going to be for something like anybody as well, for other kinds of flight games and combat games. So, combat games are FPS games everywhere, which is not that good for everyone because you have to verify your age or verify your identity. I actually saying that combat games are absolutely bad for everybody as well, because which is not good for unverified users, because combat games using for verified users only. So combat games are probably for verified users only if you're at over age of 16, according to actually for some sort of a child safety reasons about anything what I just never told of. So well, I'm just driving all the way down into the road and many more miles that I've just coming here around here for anything as well. I'm not totally saying like what is going to be, and it has been nothing a while that I'm not actually pretty sure that I just gonna be driving itself like that. So I was stuck around here for just like this for one last drive, but now I'm using a Cabover truck to drive all the way around here, and I have just discovered something like anybody as well. So anyways, back to talking around here, that flight simulator games are probably okay for you or not okay because they have featured in FPS games like these or not. So let's move on to other kinds like anything as well, for some sort of like anything as well. Train driving games are probably a little bit also for some sort of like anything as well. If you know down in the comments what that train driving games are probably FPS games, I'm not pretty sure if you look around here for one of these things as well. Sand Patch and other kinds of train games like the Blue River and something like, or even what around here, Saratoga and Western, and even more games like for some of like the base plate train games as well are not even FPS games, but some of them has it, and there might absolutely going to be locked from anybody else. So which is not probably good for everybody as well, because some of those good train driving games are probably for everyone and also for unverified aged users or something anybody as well, for even for children as well who try to play for this game. However, this isn't going to be like anybody as well to drive even for whatsoever for a little bit long or whenever what I just tried to say around here for this. So anyways, there must be a little bit amount of these things, or what I absolutely totally saying around here for like the railroad games around here for just like that as well. So, but not last at least, it wasn't going to be for like that way, and I cannot believe around here for just like that one could be for that I didn't remember around here for this one. So I'm not gonna end up this video, but we're finishing off with row scale games because that must be a little bit of quite a problem around here for just like this. Row scale games like Row Scale Rails of Unionville has an FPS feature, which is probably bad, and definitely it was an FPS game, but slightly removing that feature thanks to the developer, and what anything isn't going to be for something like for everybody as well. So this must be going to be for everybody, for unverified age users, and not actually going to be using for some sort of shooting point or controversy stuff. So whatever that I'm just not going to be actually saying about here isn't going to be just like that. So whatever that I just not actually gonna be saying for anything as well, for everybody as well who actually tries to play one of the games, isn't actually quite that a little bit for something like this. So however, if you try to find something very important of this rail sim of this games, you might actually find out that one of these simulation games are probably locked, which is absolutely a bad news for everybody, which is totally sad. And anybody else that we never totally seeing this shocking, where the developers have just eventually discovered that FPS is quite a problem. So one of the games like FPS features are totally going to lock your games. To unlock one of the games like this, you have to remove an FPS feature. Just like we never totally said about here for a while ago. And even though this may gonna be trying to be for everybody as well if you removed an FPS feature. So why FPS stands for frames per second, which is they are dumb for using for anybody as well, and which is fraud to anybody who uses it. So anyways, we're gonna be ended off for this video if we're gonna be parking of that truck, whatever that I just not going to be saying about here. Some of the fewer games around here, so what about NASCAR games? And there are totally FPS games as well too. Some games like NR 2003 was an absolute FPS game for summer like other kinds of this one. I never presume for one of the FPS games for some sort of like this one isn't going to be for everybody as well. So even of those NASCAR racing games are probably FPS games, I don't think nobody is gonna be playing for this racing games because of the FPS games like frames per second. This is totally a fraud, which is absolutely first person shooter games. It's not actually going to be for some other kinds of racing games. Racing games like these ones are an absolutely a first-person shooter games. I really never think that one of these games like that is not going to be for everybody. So we never probably sure that one of the racing games like NASCAR and Formula 1 and other motorsport games are totally an FPS games, which is probably also bad and not for everybody as well, because one of the NASCAR games, Formula 1 games, and many more GT Touring Cup Car racing games are locked because due to the FPS feature that they have featured in this game that somebody is going to mod around here from one of its kind around here for somewhere else. So anyways, we may not absolutely going to wrap up for this game or wrap up for this video. So it's not actually going to be quite so easy as well. So I'm not actually what I'm not going to think about here for some other kinds of games. But of course, that even though that wasn't going to be for enough around here for this one. So exactly like police games are probably very restricted around here because unfortunately some games are completely locked, and also around here Jailbreak was also a first person shooter game or an FPS game like anything as well. This is totally bad for everyone, and even it's not actually good like anybody as well. So I never presumed that we never actually tried it this way. So, but also Vehicle Simulator is also an FPS game. Since the developer has been arrested 2 years ago, it has been sentenced around here 6 years in prison. Unfortunately, a player won't return back. Unfortunately, that his account was actually deleted, and which is the game is still up and running, but nobody claims this game forever as well, or once and for all. Pretty not sure if this isn't gonna be for everybody as well, just like other games like Mad City and even more driving simulator games. They are probably locked too, or not. Even when you discover one of these games, when you're verified your age, you can actually play whenever you want. So that will be the end of this video. That exactly isn't gonna be for everybody as well. One of these games isn't for everybody, and that includes trucking games like these, and even racing games. That includes driving games, roleplay games like Brookhaven. They're probably locked to you and never to be played again. And well, even though there are more games like road scale and train driving games, even flight games as well, and boating games are totally FPS games that we never heard about, for these hidden games that you never able to see. So even that in the future updates about Roblox, one of the games are going to be hidden away for good or controversy reasons around here for somewhat other kinds like that, we say. Thanks for watching, and that will be totally the end of this video. So if I absolutely totally saying around here for like anybody as well, if you let me know down in the comments below what other kinds of games is being locked by age verification reasons and age identification reasons, or verify your identity. And that means you let me know down in the comments around here if you've probably seen one of the games being locked. So anyways, thanks for watching, and that I have just totally driven this truck before, that I'm not actually going to be saying that what anything it goes. So I'll talk to you mini lads and anybody as well all later, and this is TC is signing off. Thanks for watching, that I just totally saying this.